Right on, viewers. Welcome to the Books by Adrian author platform. I am your host, Adrian Santiago, and this is the one and only Writer's Den. Welcome to week 2 of our little comeback here. I'm excited for these last batch of guests that I have lined up, not the least of which is today's fun little duo. So I'm very excited to talk to them and to the rest of you guys in the chat. I am the author of the short story, The Death and Rebirth of Bella Erdman, which is a free ebook that you can get. Looks like that for now, until I change it later. That you can get for free signing up to my newsletter. You can find my newsletter at booksbyadrian.com. Link is in the description down below. That's a free ebook when you join the newsletter at booksbyadrian.com. I also wrote that bad boy right there, Shadow of the Spark. It's a gigantic, ridiculous sci-fi fantasy epic that begins with a crime thriller, as you can see here. I can't wait for everyone I know to finish reading it so that we can all talk about it. This channel, after this last batch of guests on the Writer's Den, this channel is going to start transitioning more towards content about that and the books coming up afterwards, like book 2, which I am currently writing. All that and more in our future. But today we are here to talk to two writing sisters that I see them. They are ubiquitous on YouTube. They are everywhere. They're popping up on live streams. They're doing all kinds of stuff on the channel. They've got books of poetry out. They've got, I think it's a short story anthology somewhere in there. There's a novel. They're killing it. Let's go ahead and talk to them. Like the video, subscribe, yada yada yada. Let's do this thing. If I can find the button, I don't know. That was supposed to come much earlier. Now let's welcome our guest. Hello, hello, hello. Nicole Wheatley and Lauren Adele. We are going to talk about the names because I want to get them straight. You've got pen names as well on top of all that. So, try to figure it out. But we've got here the authors of Shadow's Abyss, and Ignited Melodies, both of which I am adding to my TBR very, very soon. Not the main reason right now is those covers. Those covers are killing it, ladies. So let's dive in. Where's my thing? Where did it go? It was here. There it is. Okay. And let's go with this. People in the chat, I'm going to say hi to y'all in just a little bit. But for now, if you have any questions, later them with a Q. Yeah, do the thing. Ladies, go ahead and introduce yourselves to the people at home, who you are, where you're from, and what you're currently working on.
Ooh, go ahead, Nick.
Right. You doing some water, you're like, there, yes.
Go.
So I'm Nicole, aka Linenet's Frost. I run the channel The Blind Sisters, where we do videos about adversity for blindness and how you can still live a normal life despite your disability. With Lauren, I also am the show writer for Hunted, the Moral Kiss series, writing the Enchanting Tales website, and also started Luna's Mystical Lights, which is a tarot bake shop.
Right. No, you did enough being an author.
She wants to do it all.
That's quite the list. And yourself?
So I'm Lauren, and my pen name is E.L. Summers. And like Adrian said, I'm the author of Ignited Melodies. And I did start a fantasy anthology last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Last year.
Of poetry and short stories. And I'm currently editing another anthology called Realm of Mayhem, which is short stories and poems featuring theme under like the umbrella of paranormal. So yeah, I'm hoping to do like no big deal. I'm trying to do an anthology once a year. The hardest thing is trying to get people to admit.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the hardest part.
Yeah, because I mean, I think being a writer myself, it's like you want to feel confident enough sharing your work with others
Hmm.
and hoping that's good enough, but also like being selfish and being like, I wrote this is my creation, I don't want to share it.
Sure, sure.
I mean, I'm not like that. Like, whenever I write something, I'm like, even to Nicole, I'm like, look what I did. Look what I did. Like, I'm just like a little Labrador puppy. Like, I want praise.
You know, I've unfortunately passed on the opportunity to do a couple of different short story anthologies with other folks, and it's because I find it hard to work on more than one thing at a time, because usually that one thing is pretty big.
It could bother
And
any time.
I'm yeah, like I had so many storylines in this thing. It might as well have been three different novels, and so like you know, it's just a lot of work. So I like to focus on just the one project until it's done. And so those opportunities will come up, and I'm like, oh man, it would be awesome to be published with these other guys with these short stories and these anthologies. But like, when am I going to find the time to write some short stories and submit them? Like, I don't know, man. It's tough. It's a tough one to like juggle for me.
But I think that's the other part of the umbrella. Like, I've seen some anthology where, like, you have, like, a month to submit something, and all mine have been, like, a year, because, like, I am a slow reader, so when a lot of people submit stuff, I'm like, I need to have time to read and edit it. But also, like, I'm hoping that if there's a larger submission window, that more people will submit. I mean, that's what worked in my favor the first time around, so I'm just going to go with that.
Right on. Okay. So let's get to the interview. Let's go ahead and dive on in. What is the best thing about living in Baltimore, Maryland?
Ooh. The food?
Tell me about the food in Baltimore, Maryland.
Look, I was going to say nothing.
Yeah, that's why I knew you. I was like, I don't have any answer for that.
He's getting a sense of our dynamic. Like, I'm like sunshine and bubble, and she's just like dab, 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 darkness.
Okay.
No, I'm just
So
saying.
if I'm looking for positivity, I look at Lauren. If I'm looking for the dark clouds of the abyss, I look at Nicole.
She's positive, but her comes off as being snarky and sarcastic.
Well, I can handle snarky and sarcastic. You know, it's
Okay,
it's
well,
the doom and gloom that I worry about. It's the whole like we're all doomed and we're all gonna die and it's all
not
for nothing.
But
you know, that's just a little too much of my goth days back in high school. You know, that haunts me a little bit.
I know when people think of Baltimore, they think of seafood and crabs. So that's why I just said food.
And also the fact that Edgar Allan Poe has a museum in Greystone here, so that's another thing to look for.
How appropriate that you mentioned Edgar Allan Poe and the crow appears. That was kismet, what just happened. You can't plan that. That was awesome. So the food, the Edgar Allan Poe. This is cool. All right, you're making me want to visit Baltimore. I've never been. Sounds good. What's up with the? I don't actually have it as one of my questions, but I do want to know with the names and the pen names. You go by Lauren Adele and Nicole Wheatley, but you publish under your pen names like L.N. Frost, like we see here. And if I switch over, boom. It's too small for me to read, but it's E.L. Summers, right? E.L. Summers.
Yeah.
Why go by both? Why not just pick one?
Oh, that's a good one. Do you have an answer?
No. Well, I mean, Nicole is my actual name.
Yeah.
Of course.
But then, if you know how to look up writers, there's like 2,000 that has my name as writers, so I had to put my pen name because otherwise you'd never find me.
Gotcha.
And my pen name, the one that's Frost, has to do with everything I love, which is the moon, the Greek goddess Nyx,
darkness,
and winter.
It's a little more niche, you know. It's a little easier to find.
And I was gonna say too, I feel like when we were first starting out, it was like, I think for me, it was like I didn't want to publish under my name because I wasn't really having a whole lot of success of publishing things. And like if this goes up, because I never really saw myself as an author.
You wanted like a fresh start with like a new name to like try.
Yeah, and if it goes up in flames, then it's not tied to my personal name. And
That's fair.
then before we published Hunted, I had the idea of like redoing all my book covers with like my actual name, but I'm like, no, like now I feel like the pen name kind of grown on me, and now it's like part of my identity, so it feels kind of weird. Like I think if you were published traditionally, it would be different, but
right,
like the self-publishing route.
Yeah, it's kind of the Wild West over here in indie publishing. We can do whatever we want, so to speak.
Yeah,
we're all trying to figure it out. I'm seeing a combination of 30 years of writing between the two of you, 20 and 10, according to the website. What have you learned from each other during those years of writing?
I would say to play on each other's strengths, because I learned trying to write a story by myself. There's areas where I struggle and weak at, and the same thing does Lauren. So it helps for us to combine what we're good at to counteract what we're not good at.
I would say the biggest thing I learned from you is not to throw anything away. Like nothing really is a bad idea. Like so before I lost my vision, I would spend hours like writing by hand, and I've kept a lot of notebooks. But going back and trying to read them and type them up live, I'm like, okay, this is what you don't do as an author. Like, obviously my writing has improved, and I can see that. It's awesome.
But you cringe reading old stuff.
But I mean, there's a good idea in there somewhere? Question mark?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's ringing a little close to home.
Right, like all you ideas are terrible when they go in the trash, and they're like, no, you can do something with them. Okay,
that's why I have to scroll.
You edit out stuff, but ultimately anything goes in the idea phase. I'm all for that. The idea phase should be an anything goes kind of place. You know, it's a safe space. You remind me of there's an interview with Vince Gilligan, the creator of Breaking Bad, and he talks about running his writer's room and how that was one of his rules was during the idea stage where we're just trying to figure stuff out. There's no bad ideas. There's no like voice everything, because even if it is a bad idea, it'll help us get to the good idea, right? So he would just like, whatever it is, say it and let's get it out there. And he tells a story of one
at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Like eliminate what doesn't and keep what does. And there's a moment in I don't know if you ladies are fans of the show of Breaking Bad.
No.
Okay.
We watched one episode.
There's a scene in season 2 that is incredibly emotionally powerful for the main character and the audience. So like somebody is dying, the main character is able to help but chooses not to. It's a huge moment for the character. He's becoming a villain, and it's a whole thing.
Right? You would do.
So,
situation.
So during the idea stage, right, like when they were still trying to figure out this whole moment and how to orchestrate it, one of the ideas was not to have this accidental thing happen and have him choose not to help, but rather to have him cause this horrible thing, to happen. And just the creator, he's got his head against the window and he's tapping his finger against the window and he's talking to them. They're over here. He's not looking at them and his writers. And he's pitching the idea of how he would do this. And then he said it was like really quiet, like oddly quiet. And he turns around, looks at them, and they're all like, like, dude, no.
If you're patient enough, an idea's going to come. You see the wheel turning.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so these are both poetry books. Pitch us the poetry books one after the. Let's start with Shadows Abyss because it's on our screen right now. Pitch the poetry books to us. What's this one all about?
So Shadow Abyss premiered in Yule, which is the winter solstice. And during winter solstice, a lot of times families are gathered around the hearth and they're telling stories. So this poetry book collection of stories or poems focusing on death, loneliness, self-discovery, and stuff like that. And it's just a cool book you can read during the darker time of year.
Right on, right on.
Yeah, you did a
Okay.
good job. I'm just like the whole time thinking like you can ask me, and I'm just like, squirrel.
And then natural bonus is that the cover is based off of book Raven by Poe. So all my covers are based off of his book. I mean, artist
There you
Poe.
go. There you go.
Yeah, you only have like 100 plans. Okay, I have a pitch. I think in my head. I'm just gonna throw it out there because I'm overthinking it.
For Shadows Abyss or for
Midnight
Ignited
Melodies.
Melodies? All right, please go ahead. I
Yeah.
have it on the screen.
So, Ignited Melodies is a collection of poetry that you would like to dive into if you want to escape the real world and dive into a realm of fantasy. So, within the realm of fantasy, you would embark on pirate adventure where you would interact with mermaids, dragons, and other mythical creatures that you wouldn't find in the real world. Because writing the blurb for that was really hard because in the end, like the collection was just like a real glimpse inside my head, just like fantasy, all these different ideas combined in one thing, and I was like, Nick, how do I? Because that's the hardest thing for me is like I'm good at like hyping other people's stuff. When it comes to my own stuff, it's just like
Yeah.
But I like writing blurbs. That was a fun challenge.
And you're really good at it.
Aww.
I found it to be a very frustrating challenge writing my first blurb for this thing, and I got to be honest, I'm not terribly happy with its current state. Someday I might rewrite it, but I don't necessarily have a better version yet. It's just one of those things where like there's so much going on. How do you sum up without giving away too much, but you want to titillate them, so you got to give them something. Like it's a whole
Right with me.
very delicate balance writing a blurb. It's a very,
I give everything away. And like, I think at one point,
That's why you can't do book reviews.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. When we were figuring out what to do for the channel, I was like, "Well, I could do book reviews," and you're like, "No." All right, here's what happened in the entire book. You
Yeah.
just spoiled the entire book. But
Yeah.
it's my review.
Yeah, no, I definitely try. Well, the mark is supposed to be up until like the inciting incident. Like you're supposed to like share just about as much of the setup up until the inciting incident, and leave it at that. But I don't know, man. It's a whole delicate thing. And if you have multiple main characters with multiple storylines, which inciting incident are we talking about? Like how deep do I go in here? It's a whole thing.
Yeah, and then like when you're writing a blurb for a poetry book, it's like each poem. I mean, you'd hope that there's a connecting theme, but
Yours did not have nothing theme.
it did. Going on a fantasy adventure. There, boom.
Not at first.
Well, this is a good segue because, as the two of you are describing your poetry books to me, I can't help but feel like these sound like really awesome novels. Why is this a poetry collection and not a novel? So the question is, what can poetry do that other formats cannot? Why are you guys, doing these fantasy, stories in poetry form?
Well, I feel like for me, poetry is a lot easier to show your own voice and your own inner thoughts. I started out writing poetry because of the fact I was bullied, and writing poetry is the only way I could get out my emotions without going against the world or attacking other people because I was hurting.
Sure.
I feel like for me, like I don't think I thought this a year ago, but like how quickly I was able to like draft the next collection of poems. That it's just easier to write, and I feel like not a disconnect, but I don't know. But I feel like writing a novel is so much more involved and such a longer process. Like we're working on Revival Hunted because we had published it last year.
2 years ago.
Wow, 2 years ago.
Yep.
And I don't want to say we gutted it, but we took a lot out and added a lot to it, and then working on editing it and getting it back out to publish.
And that was Hunted, right? That you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely well, I haven't put out a a book of poetry, so I can't speak to that. But it's definitely a big workload to get a novel written, edited, published, put it out there. And what's really crazy is like something that we really don't talk about enough is the fact that everybody talks about writing a book and how hard it is to write a book, and it is. But they don't talk about how like that's not the end of the process, man. Like once it's published, like you still have to market the hell out of that book for the next forever. You know, that part of the job never ends.
That's
You
the
just
hardest part.
Oh, it's gotta be. It's gotta be. And figuring it out and navigating like the waters of algorithms in 2024. Like what even is that sentence I just said? It makes no sense. Like
And it's harder to market poetry because when people hear poetry, they think of just writing poems. So when you write free work and you write these darker tones, it's harder for you to get people wanting to read them.
I admire the hell out of people who can write poetry. I consider them to be far superior in intellect than to myself, because
Huh?
I am very dense when it comes to poetry. I took a whole like poetry thing in high school, and I just remember it being incredibly challenging. That it was very technical. That it's definitely a way to share very deep thoughts and expressions, but it's also a very technical thing in doing it, and how many different versions there are, like how many different kinds of poems that there are, and haikus, and like once you expand to like all the different versions, like it's bananas. So I and then that's just writing it and how hard it is and challenging it is to write it.
Yeah,
As a reader, I find it very hard to read poetry. I don't always get it, like I'll read it and I'll think about it for a good like week and a half. I'll read it again and then I'm like, I still don't really get it. Like I kind of do. I think I know what he's saying here. It's a whole thing with me. So I admire that. I admire anybody who can write, let alone read poetry. It's how did you guys get into the poetry side of things? Because you also do the novels and the short stories. So what's up with the poetry? Where did that come from for you guys? I know you said Nicole for in school being bullied and whatnot. What about you, Lauren?
So I don't feel like I said earlier, like I didn't really consider myself an author. When I was in college, I was forced to take a creative writing class because I always loved art. Like I took like art history too, and during the creative writing class, I was like forced to write poetry and short stories, and it was through the teacher and I was like Nicole support. And they were like, "Man, you're really good at this." And I'm like, "No, I've never done it before. How am I good at this?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, maybe I have a talent here."
Yeah, it's funny how we don't always know what we're good at. And it's usually because what we're good at is something that we're really passionate about, and we have seen and appreciated people that do it better, and so we don't feel up to their level, so we fail to see what level we're at.
That's
Or,
right.
or I was gonna say, or you're just your own worst
You
critic,
know,
and you think, right.
if everybody starts at level 0 and you're at level 10 and you're looking up at level 50s and you're like, well, I'm not a level 50. Yeah, but you're not a level 0 either. You're a level 10. Like, boss, let's go. So sometimes it's a perspective thing, and we don't really get how good we are until you know
And for
you
me,
try.
I've always been a fan of poetry because I pretty much spent my whole life reading books. Like I was reading Shakespeare and Whitman while I was in middle school and elementary, so that's what got me into poetry.
So you like your real life Belle, like walking around reading a book. I mean, honestly, before you lost your vision, but
Yeah.
you always had a book with you. Maybe you had even at your high school graduation, you were reading a book.
Not that every graduation I was reading.
I got a little bit into Walt Whitman after Breaking Bad. They actually make a reference to Walt Whitman more than once on that show, and the book of his that they focused on was Leaves of Grass. So I picked up a copy one day
Ooh.
and I read through cover to cover of Leaves of Grass, and I was like, I don't understand any of this, but it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, but I have no idea what he's talking about.
See, that's why I have to bring back the Poet's Corner, because that's kind of what we did. We would Well, it was hard to try and read poems because of our disability, but then we'd find like people reading the poem on YouTube and like share the video, and then like
Broke down what it meant, or we thought it meant.
that was mostly you, because I'm just like, this is a great poem. I like this line, and then like Nicole would go in like a whole hour spiel of like what it, like an analysis of it.
Looks like Maggie's here. Oh, she just realized she was lagging, so she's catching up now. Yeah, she says that you guys are the reason that she chose to start Cat Lady in Baltimore after you guys talked about it on a stream. So there you go. Like I said, you guys are all over the place with the streams and stuff, influencing people to write stuff. Look at that. Mark on the industry.
The biggest thing is like finding time to do it.
Which of your poems would you recommend for thick-headed poetry numbskull newbies like me?
Ooh.
Yeah, see, it's hard, right? Like, which one is like for like a dum dum? Let's think.
Mine would be like from the book, because circling back to marketing the book. Ignited Melody. There's a poem called Dragon's Tale, and it kind of reads like an epic poem in a way of like warning humans why not to fuck with dragons.
All right, I like that. Yeah, that sounds cool. What about you, Nicole?
For me, I think for people that are beginning, I'd think of Ink Prison, because
really,
I based it off of getting your first tattoo and how ink for tattoos can also transport you to another realm.
Ooh.
So it's something that a lot of people have gotten done, so they'd be able to relate to it.
Now, tell me the story behind that, though, because you don't have any tattoos.
I do not.
I do have tattoos, and I see, Lauren, that you do as well. So I'm going to read that one, and then we'll see if she knows what she's talking about, huh?
She asked me so many questions.
I did.
And then you felt like went to one when I got mine done, though.
Yeah.
After you wrote the poem. That was funny.
We finally have people showing up in the chat. So, like, I was just going to comment on this, how in tune the two of you guys are. You guys clearly work together a lot because you play off each other very well and kind of bounce one off each other. That's very cool.
A lot of people think we're twins, though.
Definitely are. We're Irish twins. We were born the same day, but year apart.
Oh, my mother and her younger sister are like that. The same birthday, 1 year apart.
Oh, cool. Because a lot of people are like, that can't really happen.
Yeah, no, it does, and they sisters from the same mom. Like it's straight up like back to back. It's wild. All right, what's the next one over here? Here we go. Okay, how has your poetry changed over the years?
Ooh, I think for mine that I've gotten better at using different types of words within the poem to showcase my intelligence. Because like when I first started writing poetry, it'd be like very simplistic, very like straightforward, like obviously this is the emotion that you're feeling. And then now when I look at poetry, it's more complex.
It's that technical side I was talking about.
That's her fault.
I feel like for me, it's getting my poems more packed down than verse. Because when I first started writing poetry, for example, Save Me and Twin Demons, they were like 15 to 20 pages.
Front and back?
Yeah, now it's like down to like 3 at the most.
Oh, okay. Right on. For everybody at home, label your questions for our guests with a big Q so I can find them.
I feel like in the beginning when we were starting out, it was like, here's a poem, here's a story.
Yeah.
If you can write it in that format of like whole paragraph, like it's a story, and then you're like, that could be a poem.
Yeah.
Well, when I was in my class in high school, I was at that time like playing in a lot of like little punk rock bands, and writing little punk rock songs because they're easy to write. And so I would just use like my song lyrics as like to turn in for assignments. I was like, he'll think it's a poem. It's song lyrics. It's poetry.
Yeah.
And I would turn those in, and it's I don't know, man. It's a different muscle. It's a whole different muscle. Like even when I'm writing my novel, and I'm trying to find like that rhythm that authors are always talking about, where you want to find a rhythm for your words and a cadence. Like I turn back to that. So I'm sure that that poetry is a lot about that. A lot about the rhythm and the pacing and you know how it sounds as much as how it looks as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And as Jenna pointed out, also things you do growing up is reflecting your writing as well, because I grew up in theater and choir, and a lot of that's shown from my poems of riddles and like song verses in them.
Oh yeah.
It's dope. Now, you guys have published poetry besides these collections. You guys have also published it elsewhere in other people's anthologies. Um, what were those experiences like? What did you learn with collaborating with these other people on these collections?
Oh, I loved it. I feel like that's what inspired me to try and jumpstart like my own anthology. But I remember back then we were submitting to them, like I don't even think we even had like a YouTube channel then.
Yeah.
Like we were nobody, so the chance to work with somebody else and try to get our work out there is really good. Of like another way of like marketing yourself and promoting yourself. But it's scary when you don't really have a presence and you're just like, nobody's ever gonna read this. I'm nobody.
That's
And then it's wrong.
that imposter syndrome sets in real quick. Poetry formality is a writing monster. Once it gets its teeth in you, it's hard to go back to prose. Do you guys find that to be true?
I think that's why I'm an overwriter. I was pointed this out very bluntly by our editor that I tend to overwrite, and I think that's I don't want to say that's to blame, but yeah, I'm gonna say that's to blame.
I feel like for me, I'm more worried about rewriting the same thing over again and not revising it. So I think for me, it helps when I outline my books for poetry or for novels to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. It says DL released a stalkery dark poem this morning. DL Tillery with the stalkery dark poem. All right. That's a whole other world, man, that I don't really know too much about is this poetry stuff. That's why most of my questions are about your poetry, because I'm just, like I said, kind of dumb when it comes to poetry. But
Yeah, cool.
I definitely have an interest in wanting to explore it a little more. Maybe I'll go
And
back
you
to
said you already wrote songs, and songwriting and poetry are so similar.
Right.
Like, I feel like for this new collection, like, every time, because I'm always listening to music, and like half the poems were from like somewhere. So I feel like
more.
Yeah. If you can tell, can't you?
Well, I see. I don't know. Maybe it's a left brain, right brain kind of thing or something. Because like for me, when I listen to music, I'll get stories out of there that turn into like whole novels. My sister was in a creative writing class, or actually, she went to college for creative writing. She got her degree in it, and she needed to write a film script, and she wanted to write like a romantic, kind of drama, but didn't have any ideas for it. And at the time, I was listening a lot to a band called Further Seems Forever, and they have 2 or 3 songs about living in like a beachside town and like finding love, falling in love with like snowbirds that come down during the winter and they spend their time there in the townies. And then the snowbirds got to go back to where they came from, and then you miss them over the summer. And yeah, and so I pitched her that. I was like, "There's a whole movie in this right here," and she did. She wrote a whole film script out of that. So like I'll always like extrapolate the song into like a whole like story arc, cinematic thing. That's where I go with it, which is why I can't listen to music when I write. I have to listen to like film scores and stuff with things that don't have any lyrics, because it'll just influence me too much.
Oh man, writing a screenplay is so different than writing poetry or novels.
Oh hell yeah!
Because we had to do that together for a film course. We had to write a script, and it was an interesting challenge.
Have you ever both written poems, then discovered you were referencing the same emotion or event? Oh, that's a yes.
Oh yeah.
What are you thinking of?
Did you guys see that?
I'm gonna look away.
Please elaborate.
Yeah, I want to see if we had the same idea. Are you thinking of Phantom Phone?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was trying to write poems inspired by Phantom of the Opera because it's my favorite musical. And if you ever watched or read the musical, Phantom has this very highly intellectual way of speaking, and that's way above my intellect. I think I can't unless I'm like looking up every single word. Like I can't even fathom how to write in that way. So I wrote the poem as is, and I was like, "Hey Nicole, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm going for. Help me."
That's so funny.
And then you made the poem like 100 times better because you like
How
you pulled it out of your head like nothing.
And
like
then I like writing character poems. Was where it's a poem where you read it, you can get a sense of what a character's thinking or a feeling or a moment. And I decided to do one as for the Phantom as well.
Hmm. I always hear, you hear about those big like epic poems, the Iliad and stuff like that, and I always like wonder about those. I've never sat down to actually read them. That's got to be quite an experience. That's a whole other can of worms.
I actually have one called The Dam. It's 12 pages.
It's called what?
The Dam. It's 12 pages long, so it's 3 poems and they all connect to tell a story.
Okay. See, that's cool. See, I almost feel like I could do that. Like write a couple poems like from the perspective of a character and put them together, because that reminds me of a band that I've listened to for years called Coheed and Cambria. And they have these big like what's it called? These theme albums where every album is another book in a long series story thing, right? And he's telling like a big sci-fi epic with monsters and spaceships and planets and all kinds of stuff, and he's doing it from the point of view of different characters in each song. So sometimes he's telling the story from the point of view of the monster. So you'll have a song where he's like screaming and he sounds like all monstrous and stuff, and the next one is the hero is singing a love song to his lover. So it's this beautiful ballad, and like it just takes you on this crazy ride. That's I could put something like that together, get into some poetry that way. Yeah, write some poems that tie together. That sounds cool.
Yeah, it makes me think of Epic, where it's all these songs and it's telling the story of the Odyssey. So each song is for different scenes from the poem.
Okay. Interesting.
Kind of like a verse of like, here's a story that's already out there people are familiar with, and
let's put music to it.
Yeah.
You've brought it up a couple times during the interview. Hunted, The Immortal's Kiss. Why don't you go ahead and pitch that book to us, because we are not familiar with it. Oh, go for it.
Go ahead, Nick.
So I think we were decided for it to be a trilogy, but book 1 is called Immortal's Kiss. And the idea came from, watching Buffy, reading all these like vampire slayers stories and stuff.
Cool.
And as a concept of there's a bunch of murders occurring in Denver, and all the victims are the same type of victims, all the same blonde hair, same features. And it gets back to this group of slayers, and they realize that it's one of their own that's being hunted down.
Okay. Well, you had me at vampire. Like I was just I was already in.
That's how she got me on board to help her with it, because it was originally her baby and her idea, and she had basically almost the whole story like skeletal of it done.
Yeah.
And she just needed like help like turning into an actual novel. Because like she had the idea and she had the outline, but it was like missing one little thing. And that's usually how it works for us. Like one of us will have the idea, it'll be like there's something missing here. It would be like either plot or character.
Yeah. The missing puzzle piece will be in the other one of you.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's nice. That's a good, because I was talking to Martin Lejeune last week, and he's a co-writer with his buddy Malcolm Bradley, and they write those sci-fi books together, the McMurdo Rift. And and I find that's a whole other skill to be able to co-write a thing together, as this novel was between the two of you.
Right.
You
Instead
know,
of being like, nope, this is my whole thing. Get out. This is mine.
I mean, there's some novels ideas we have where we're working on it by ourselves, and there's others where we co-laugh with it.
that's cool. It's fun. Would you ever undertake a poetic play or screenplay like Shakespeare or the Iliad, but in modern English? In other words, we don't understand that old stuff. Can you make it understandable for those of us who need regular English?
Yeah, Nicole, the one that grew up reading like Shakespeare and the Iliad and Odyssey.
Well, it's funny is that that's what I've been doing growing from school or stuff is that when we had those projects where you had to read Midsummer Night's Dream or Romeo and Juliet, for some reason it was never hard for me to understand, so I would just break it down and be like, here you go, guys, here's what they're saying. Hope it helps.
Yeah, yeah. They're also asking, with poetry
like
being such a
Shakespeare for
narrow
dummies.
genre, what would you like to create a genre mash with? But it sounds like you've already done that with fantasy. And was there also like touches of horror in yours, Nicole? I know that like the poems will veer fantasy.
It seems like the genres I like writing is fantasy, paranormal, or
Or
horror and sci-fi.
Well,
I can't
there's
write
there's a request. There's officially a request for poetic vampire slayers in a romantic comedy. Get on it.
that. Okay.
It needs to be funny. They need to fall in love, and somebody's got to bite somebody on the neck. These are the three requisites.
All right.
Meet all three.
Well, I think it's interesting. Like even with Hunted, I feel like some of the even some of the other side characters that will like split characters that will write the POV before. And I feel like a lot of mine have that comedic aspect in it anyway. How earlier you were saying like kind of like yin and yang together. So I like the idea. I feel like I'm gonna take that on. And I'll have to actually try and take it on.
Challenge accepted. You guys heard it here first. It's a Writer's Den exclusive. It's coming.
10 years later, I did
Yeah,
it.
right?
I did it.
Well, it could be worse. It could be 12 years like George Martin, but we're not talking about that. Now we
Ooh, shots fired.
And it's,
I'm his biggest champion, but buddy, can you please just finish the book? I need to know what happens next. All right, check it out. Your advice for co-authors. We've touched on this throughout the interview here. The two of you working together on stuff. You seem to bounce off each other really well. What is your advice for people trying to make it as co-authors?
don't let your ego get in the way. Sometimes you have to be the better person and let the other person have their way with a scene or a character.
Elaborate. I feel like I'm familiar with that here.
It sounds to me, Lauren, as though Nicole has let you have your way a few times.
Yeah. Now you got to speak on it. And you put it out there.
I'm sorry to open up a can of worms. That was not my intention. Okay. So check your ego at the door. I can concur that. I've been involved in a writer's room type situation before, and you got to do that, man. Sometimes like you're gonna be like, no, this is the right thing to do for the story. This is what it needs, and everybody's like,
That doesn't sound like me.
everybody else is no, you're wrong, and you need to accept that you're wrong, and we need to do it this way. It's like, all right.
Like I said, sometimes you class inspired to talk it out, then the other person writing the scene out and not telling you, and then you find out, read it while you're at it.
Oh, now you're just talking about drama. You're just spilling
Yeah.
tea.
I just spilled the tea.
Yeah, this
You
is
guys
not
can't use them.
Jerry Springer here, okay? We're not on Maury Povich or whoever. Like, just
What do you think?
I think my advice should be like definitely help them find ideas in a different way, because I think sometimes you get in your own head and like you know what you want to go with, like a character or an idea, but you might not be able to see it clearly until like you're able to talk it out.
That's very good advice. I like that a lot.
Brainstorming can definitely be helpful.
Agreed. And outlines, which you don't know what they are, do you?
I don't like outlines, okay?
Ladies, what have you been reading? Any book recommendations?
So I've been listening to audiobooks and it's hard for me to read print now. And I've been listening to the Forgotten Realm series by Salvatore. And I really liked them because they're what based off of D&D is. And also going back to the Vampire D graphic novel series as well.
Yeah, vampires.
Fires all over the place. Yeah, love it.
And I'm listening to. So it's a. I don't know if the author plans to continue the series, but I think it's supposed to be a duology. So it's called For the Wolf and For the Throne by Hannah Whitman.
Oh, I thought you were about that other graphic novel.
No, we're not talking about that book. We're gonna write a better book. But it's basically, it has a lot of retelling of like Red Riding Hood, and there's a lot of magic. Yeah, we're not talking bad about other books on the interview, okay?
No, I did no. No, we're not. In fact, next question. What is your new favorite writing hack or writing tool? What is like your go-to thing to getting your writing done?
I feel like for me is having good music. And sometimes I'll get a writer's block or not feel like writing a certain way, and having music or watching scenes from my favorite animes or movies help me get into that writing mood.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good answer. Like a good ambiance is good to have.
Yeah.
And trying to set up and going back to trying to like find time to write, but having some kind of writing schedule. I definitely learned that I can't write early in the morning.
You're a night owl. You're not like early in the morning.
Oh, okay. I'm the opposite. I write my best stuff early in the morning when my brain is fresh. If I try to sit down in the evening to get stuff done, I'm just too tired and like groggy. And, like,
Yeah. Her like 10 o'clock night. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's not happening.
different strokes for different folks, man.
She'll
Like,
be ready to go to bed, and I'll be like, "All right, let's write for like 3 hours." And you're just like, "No, I'm going to bed. Go away."
talk to me at 9 a.m. tomorrow. We'll talk at 9 a.m.
Yeah, bring coffee. We'll talk then.
Yeah.
I mean, if you bring me coffee, I'll do it.
That's so funny. So the finding the right time, right? Finding your the time that's right for you, for your creative juices to be flowing, so to speak. All right, ladies, we're nearing the end here. Do you have any questions for me? This is a new thing I'm doing now.
Ooh, put us on the spot.
Yeah, pretty much. And no is an acceptable answer. You don't have to.
Oh
Have
no, I have a question.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So you mentioned earlier in the interview that you used to write songs.
Mm.
Would you publish them or use them to write poetry?
They were from well over 20 years ago, and I was a very, very different person. I was a child. I was a literal child. No, I would not publish those ever. Nobody's ever going to see those. I don't want to see those. No. But I am warming up to the idea of writing some poetry or something. Like just trying to like learn how to do it. I want to read more of it first.
Flash fiction is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, the cool thing about poetry though is that you don't have to set the format. That's why I like doing free works. You know, you just write your own style as long as it shows emotions or shows a concept.
See, I tend to find that even scarier because that's like saying, like, that's like jazz, right? Like, not you don't just start as a musician playing jazz. Like, you start learning everything else, and then you get to break the rules playing jazz because you're that good. You're like, okay, I'm so good now that I can just do whatever I want, and it's going to sound awesome. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. I can't do that yet. So you're basically telling me like go and like freestyle. I'm like, I don't even know what the rules are. Like, how do I break the rules? Like, no.
You wrote and published a whole freaking novel. I mean, you can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It is. Yes, you're right. It it is a surmountable challenge. It is something that I can do. I just have to dedicate the proper time to it. I definitely want to read more first. I want to dive back into Whitman a little bit and see if I can figure him out and see what the hell he was talking about, and and see where I go from there. Maybe write some in the near future. Prophecies are a form of
You have a question.
ooh, and I'm gonna have some prophecies in the next book, so I should try to poem those up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Nicole, your question.
Is there a genre in poetry you'd want to try? Or are you scared of trying?
Well,
Or-
now that Maggie has made it so clear to us that prophecies are a form of poetry, and I do want to have some prophecies in my series as I go forward. That's something that I would definitely want to try. And I'm very intrigued with this idea of like connecting poems together to tell a story. I don't know what genre that is, but whatever that is, that one. That sounds good to me.
What is that one? Is it epic?
Yeah.
Either epic or a hero's journey.
That's my problem. Epic. Like I can't do anything that isn't epic. Everybody's like, "Give me some short stories." I'm like, "What is a short story? How? How?"
10,000 words. Here we go.
It took me 457 pages to tell you this story. Like,
That's her. Okay, here's a poem. Well done. It's 10 pages. It's a poem. Enjoy. Mine's like half a page.
yeah, yeah. Like, here, read this whole thing. It's like, no, it's too much. Oh man. Well, ladies, it has been a pleasure talking with you guys on the Writer's Den this week. Next week, for those of you at home, is an off week. We are not having an episode next week. I'm going to be doing something else at the public library where I'm going to hopefully do a recording and make that one of the videos coming up later on down the road to the channel. So off next week, but the week after that, we'll be back with
Notes.
I
Are
want to
you
say
doing a reading of your book at the library?
no, it's not my event. There's somebody else is having an event, and I'm going to go and like try and get some filming done and talk to some folks. But
Oh.
I believe they're doing a talk about psychology in your writing, like how to use psychology to like write better characters and stuff like that. So it's going to be a nice little talk for authors. Yeah, I'm going to check that out. Now, for those of you at home, if you want more of Lauren and Nicole here, be back tomorrow when their episode of The Green Room premieres, which is what they are going to go do with me in the next room over here. Thank you very, very much. Would you guys like to take the stage and give us a goodbye for the people at home? Boom.
Yeah. So like I said, we have a website which is enchantingtalepublishing.com where we have our books listed there. And you can find me on Instagram at author Lauren Adele. If Instagram wants to reinstate my account. God Nick.
You never missed your YouTube channel.
It's the name. You just find my name and it's there.
And now you also run the Writing Sisters, which is where we do all our videos about writing and poetry. And for me, I'm Nicole, but I go on YouTube as Linux Frost, which is my pen name.
Boss lady.
You can find me on Instagram under Linux Frost. With Lauren mentioned our website, Enchanting Tales. I also have a Etsy store called Luna's Mystical Delights, where I'm doing tarot readings and also set up to sell baked goods.
Nice. Very cool. You guys have a lot going on. You keep busy. That's good.
We're trying to. Well, we're trying not to let societies down when they don't want to hire people with disabilities. You know, find a way to make money.
My default is I have go brain. I was like, oh, shiny idea.
10,000 words is barely a story seed to people like Adrian and I. Yeah. 10,000 words is the prologue to my novel, which is why I had to like separate it and like, oh, it's a short story,
right?
Lead in. It's a reader magnet. It's a prologue. It's a 10,000 word prologue because it's a novella to start the novel. next
And it's a series.
next
So
book. Next book.
each book
None of the
is
chapters.
bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, yes, maybe the next book might be longer, but the chapters are all going to be shorter. I'm going to have much shorter chapters, 5,000 words tops.
So you say.
Just gotta shorten those up a little bit.
Can you imagine doing an audiobook for that though? Like 40 hours.
TL Tillery says, great chat, enjoyed it. I still need to connect with you, Adrian. Maybe get on here since I'm a writer of short stories and such. So you came in a little late. I touched on it at the beginning of the episode. I want to say this as often as possible. Things are going to be changing on the channel, and this batch of guests that I have on the Writer's Den, 5 more after today's episode, are the last ones. And then I don't think I'm doing interviews anymore on the channel. I'm going to shift my focus to my writing and my books, and occasionally I might help out other authors with like book launches and stuff like that because I like doing that kind of stuff. But
that would be a good way to bring back the interview system.
Yeah, and I'll do writing. I do writing sprints and stuff like that, so I'll have guests on for writing sprints and stuff like that. But I'm done with the interview shows after this last batch. This is the last season of the Writer's Den, so it's kind of a farewell tour. And I'm very glad that I got the two of you on here because I've been trying to get you guys on here for a while. It didn't work out 2 seasons ago, and then I completely missed you guys last season. I don't know what happened there, and then this one is. I'm just glad that you guys on it. Well, yay, we did it.
I mean, sometimes you need to pivot your YouTube channel and focus on something different. Like my channel was about matches, and now it's more about our disabilities. So sometimes you have to change.
There is that. There's like the shift that sometimes you got to do. The other thing with me is that when I started this channel, the whole point was, well, I'm writing a novel. I'm going to put it out someday. I want people to be waiting for it when it comes out, somebody to know that it's happening. So let me go ahead and start my YouTube channel now. And well, what am I going to do while I'm writing? I don't want to give writing advice. I'm a first-time author. I haven't published anything. Who wants to know writing advice from me? So instead, how about I learn from other authors and I interview you guys and I learn your stories and I give you guys a platform. And so that was, that became the channel through, just happenstance. And I love doing that. And I'll never regret it. It's a wonderful thing. And I love talking to all you guys. But now that I am published, now that I do have the novel, at this point, it's like, okay, well, this channel needs to actually serve the purpose of,
what you intended it for.
Yeah. So it's going to take a nice hard left turn and head towards my stuff. But like I said, I'll still do writing sprints and stuff like that. Like there's still going to be other content on the channel. It's just the thing with shows like this one is it takes time to make the animations. It takes time to organize the music. It takes time to write the questions. It takes time to do a little bit of research on each guest, and all that stuff is time that I could spend writing.
Writing.
I should be writing my next novel, and I can edit videos within like an hour or two and have it be done and not take up like my entire week. It's I just I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta do what I gotta do. She understands. That's good.
Pivot.
She just ended a series herself. Yeah, we got pivot. Hey, Ross.
Pivot.
I'm such a Ross. Yeah, okay. So that might be problematic to say in 2024. Maybe I should take that back. I'm not a Ross, but
No, we already said it.
I am such a Ross though sometimes. Like every once in a while, Ross will say something on Friends, and everybody is like, "Oh, you're being such a jerk," and I'm sitting here going, "He's right." I'm sorry, he's right. And if he's right, like who cares if he's being a little rude about it? The fact is he's right. The rest of you are wrong. Like that's just what it is.
I shared a clip one the other day of like when Rachel got these eye drops, and I'm like, that is me. Oh my god.
Right? Yeah.
I agree. I hate taking that.
What's really funny is that my wife is a Monica.
Like 20, 25 years of like going to the eye doctor and getting eye drops, it would be like, second nature.
Nope.
Yeah, right? Nope.
No, I hate it.
Yeah, that's a real Rachel thing for sure.
Yeah, I feel like off Friends, I usually start with Phoebe.
Yeah. Go tell Mama that she's a Monica. She'll know what that means. Uh,
Oh,
she heavily identifies with Monica. She really will know what that means.
Deb slept with that later.
oh, you did it!
Mom, you're a Monica. Oh, so funny.
God,
Uh,
no
going to
cliffhanger.
miss these. Thank you. I am going to miss doing them. I do enjoy doing them. It's it's just a matter of time. I'm a farmer now. Like I get up at 5 in the morning just so I can squeeze in an hour of writing before I go in and work on a farm in a greenhouse, sweating my ass off. Like
Oh
I don't have.
wow.
Yeah, like things have changed around here. Like we got to change.
I can't. I have a manual job too, and I'm just like, nope. I'm gonna go home and sleep, eat dinner, shower, sleep.
Thank you very much, Maggie. I appreciate the kind words. It's 3 o'clock. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, ladies. Before you leave, don't leave when I end the show here, and we'll get set up for the next one.
Right.
And for everybody at home, hugs all. Absolutely, leave a like and comment down below. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Sign up for the newsletter. The link is down below. So are their links, by the way. Their books you can pick up at the links in the description down below. Go ahead and pick up some copies of their awesome poetry. Right on writers and viewers. That's another thing that's
Thanks for having us.
right on viewers. And we're going to be outie like a belly button.